Beauty was a young Nigerian woman of 23, tall and slim, with a face that drew stares everywhere she went. Her almond-shaped eyes sparkled with mischief, and her long braids fell gracefully over her shoulders. Men turned their heads whenever she walked into a room, not just because of her looks, but because of the strange aura that surrounded her. From a young age, Beauty had been told she was different. Her grandmother often whispered about special charms hidden in the family line, powers that could bend men's will. At first, she thought they were just stories, until she was introduced to a certain mystical object, her grandmother's waist bead. The waist bead, Mama Rose told her, was no ordinary adornment. It carried the power of seduction, capable of making any man weak, confused, and willing to give up his riches. Use it wisely, Mama Rose had warned, for power is sweet, but it comes with a price. Beauty smiled, but deep inside, she was hungry for more than warnings. As soon as she wore the waist bead, something inside her shifted. Men suddenly became more generous, more desperate for her attention. They called her at odd hours, sent her money without asking, and even begged for her presence. She quickly realized the bead was working. With this power, Beauty began to dream of a life of luxury, free from struggle. She had no interest in working or building anything on her own. All she wanted was to trap men, use them, and discard them when she was done. Edward was a 27-year-old banker, sharp in his suit and full of confidence. Women in his office admired him, but when he met Beauty, he felt like a small boy. She had a way of locking eyes with him that made his heart pound uncontrollably. Beauty didn't have to do much. A simple smile and the brush of her hand on his arm, and Edward was already offering to take her shopping. Within 2 weeks, he had spent more than 3 months' salary on her. His friends laughed at him, but he didn't care, he was enchanted. At night, Edward dreamt of her. He saw her dancing in his sleep, her waist moving in slow, powerful circles, the beads glowing like fire. Each time he woke, he felt compelled to send her money. He couldn't explain why, but the pull was stronger than his reasoning. Beauty, on the other hand, was thrilled. "Foolish man," she muttered after receiving yet another alert from him. She was already planning her next target, for Edward was beginning to bore her. The waist bead pulsed against her skin as though it was alive, feeding off Edward's energy and binding him tighter with every encounter. Beauty smiled, this was just the beginning. Mr. Chris was not like Edward. At 45, he was a wealthy businessman, married with children, and known for his discipline. But even a strong man can fall when the right temptation comes his way. They met at a hotel lounge during a friend's birthday party. Beauty had chosen a red dress that night, one that clung to her curves and made her waist bead glow faintly beneath. When she passed by Mr. Chris, he froze. His eyes followed her like a man hypnotized. At first, he tried to resist. "I am married," he reminded himself. But Beauty's laugh, her subtle touches, and the strange warmth he felt around her weakened his resolve. He started sneaking out of his home just to see her. Unlike Edward, Mr. Chris had deep pockets. Cars, jewelry, and even cash gifts began to flow into Beauty's account. She barely had to ask, he willingly offered everything. His wife began to suspect, but Chris denied it fiercely. The waist bead seemed to tighten its hold on him, making him more reckless. Beauty knew she had found her golden goose, but she didn't realize she was also digging a dangerous pit for herself. Pastor Michael was a 50-year-old preacher, respected in the community for his wisdom. He had noticed Edward's sudden decline in church attendance and Mr. Chris's strange behavior. Both men were known to him, and both had one thing in common: beauty. One Sunday morning, Pastor Michael preached about the dangers of spiritual manipulation. He warned that charms and seduction could enslave a man's destiny if he was not careful. Though he didn't mention names, Edward shifted uncomfortably in his seat, while Mr. Chris avoided church completely. Beauty heard about the sermon from her neighbor. She laughed it off. Pastor Michael talks too much. Let him keep shouting, men will still come, she said, twisting her waist beads playfully. But Mama Rose, her grandmother, grew worried. She pulled Beauty aside and reminded her, this bead can give you wealth, but if you overuse it, it will take something in return. Beauty rolled her eyes. Mama, I don't care. Let it take whatever it wants, as long as I get rich. The old woman sighed deeply. She knew that Beauty's greed would one day lead her into trouble, but she could no longer control her. Edward was slowly losing his mind. He spent most of his salary on Beauty, took loans from colleagues, and even started selling some of his personal belongings just to impress her. His family noticed the change, but he denied having a problem. At work, his performance dropped. Once a promising banker, Edward now came late, left early, and was caught several times daydreaming. His boss issued him a warning, but Edward shrugged it off. He was too deep under Beauty's spell. One evening, Edward knelt before Beauty, tears streaming down his face. Marry me, he begged. Beauty looked at him and laughed so hard that neighbors peeped through their windows. Marry you? You can't even afford rent. Get out. Humiliated, Edward stumbled out of her house. That night, he sat alone in his car, crying uncontrollably. He couldn't understand why he loved a woman who treated him like trash. The waist bead glowed faintly in Beauty's room as she slept peacefully, feeding off Edward's broken spirit. Meanwhile, Mr. Chris's wife had finally caught him. She found strange transfers in his bank account and confronted him with evidence. At first, he shouted and denied, but the guilt weighed heavily on him. His children noticed the tension at home. Their once united family now fought constantly. Mr. Chris promised to stop seeing Beauty, but the very next day, he found himself driving to her apartment. The waist bead's power had him in chains. Beauty welcomed him with a seductive smile, whispering sweet words in his ear. He melted instantly. I'll buy you that land in Lekki, he muttered, handing her documents without thinking twice. Back home, his wife packed her things and threatened divorce. Mr. Chris begged, but she was tired of his lies. He returned to Beauty, not knowing he was losing his entire family. The waist bead shone brighter, drinking greedily from his downfall. Mama Rose watched all this unfold and grew restless. She had lived long enough to know that power without control always ended in disaster. She tried again to warn Beauty. My child, the bead is not ordinary. Each man you trap, it binds their soul, but it also binds yours. Can you not see how Edward is crumbling? Can you not see Mr. Chris's home breaking apart? She pleaded. Beauty hissed. Mama, you worry too much. I'm living my best life. Men are fools, and I am smart. That's all. She adjusted her bead and walked out proudly. That night, Mama Rose prayed for her granddaughter. Lord, save her before it's too late, she whispered, tears in her eyes. But the bead glowed dark red, as though mocking the old woman's prayers. Pastor Michael decided to visit Edward personally. When he saw the young man, he was shocked. Edward looked thinner, tired, and broken. His once bright eyes were dull. Son, what's happening to you? Pastor asked gently. Edward shook his head. It's Beauty. I can't stop thinking of her. I don't know what's wrong with me. Pastor Michael laid his hand on Edward's shoulder and prayed. As he prayed, Edward shook violently, screaming Beauty's name. Pastor realized this was deeper than ordinary love, it was spiritual manipulation. The next Sunday, Pastor spoke openly about Beauty. He didn't call her by name, but everyone in the community knew who he was referring to. The church gasped, and whispers spread like wildfire. Beauty heard about it and laughed. Let the old man talk. It only makes me more famous. She tightened her waist bead and went out to meet another victim. Edward was no longer useful, and Mr. Chris was getting boring. Beauty set her eyes on someone new, Emmanuel, a 30-year-old upcoming musician. Unlike the others, Emmanuel was ambitious but naive. She met him at a lounge where he was performing. After the show, she approached him, showering him with compliments. Emmanuel was flattered. Nobody that beautiful had ever spoken to him with such sweetness. Within weeks, Emmanuel was addicted to her. He started spending his little savings on her, neglecting his music. His manager complained, but Emmanuel brushed it off. Beauty whispered to him at night, promising to make him successful. Emmanuel believed her, thinking she was a blessing. Little did he know, she was draining him too. The community was now buzzing with whispers about Beauty. Some women warned their husbands not to go near her, while young men joked about her charm but secretly wished for her attention. Mama Rose's friends told her to stay away from her granddaughter, claiming Beauty was cursed. The old woman's heart broke each time she heard people speak badly about her blood. Meanwhile, Pastor Michael kept warning, "There's a strange spirit moving among us. We must not take it lightly." But some people laughed, thinking he was exaggerating. Beauty enjoyed the attention. She wore her waist bead boldly under her clothes, feeling invincible. She didn't care about gossip. To her, men's money was her proof of power. But destiny was watching quietly, preparing a prize she never imagined. Edward finally reached his breaking point. After losing his job for negligence, he went straight to Beauty's house, shouting and banging her door. "Give me back my money. You ruined my life," he cried. Neighbors gathered, watching in pity. Beauty simply opened the window and told him, "Leave before I call the police. You're embarrassing yourself." Edward staggered away, tears streaming down his face. That night, he collapsed in his room. His mother found him unconscious and rushed him to the hospital. When Pastor Michael visited him, Edward whispered weakly, "It's the bead, she's not normal." Then he slipped back into sleep. The pastor prayed harder. He knew Beauty's reign would not last forever. Mr. Chris's secret could no longer be hidden. His wife finally filed for divorce, and his children refused to speak to him. His business partners also began to withdraw, suspecting he was distracted and reckless. One of his closest friends confronted him. "All this because of a woman. You're about to lose everything." Mr. Chris lowered his head in shame but couldn't stop himself from returning to Beauty. At Beauty's house, he found Emmanuel already there. The two men eyed each other with suspicion. Beauty simply laughed, enjoying the tension. "Don't fight. There's enough of me to go around," she teased. Both men looked foolish, competing for her attention. Mama Rose, watching secretly from the street, wept bitterly. "This girl will destroy homes until she destroys herself." Emmanuel's music career started collapsing. He missed shows, forgot lyrics, and argued with his manager constantly. The charm of the waist bead clouded his vision, making him lose focus. His mother, a prayerful woman, noticed the sudden change. She confronted him. "My son, you are not the same. Who is this woman draining you?" Emmanuel shouted at her, defending Beauty. But one night, he dreamed of himself chained to a glowing red bead. He woke up in fear, sweating. Yet the next day, he still went to Beauty. The waist bead glowed brighter than ever. Each man who fell for Beauty only strengthened its grip. But something was beginning to stir in the spirit. Beauty's time of harvest was drawing close. One night, Pastor Michael had a troubling dream. He saw Beauty standing at a crossroads, surrounded by broken men. Behind her, the waist bead turned into a serpent, wrapping around her waist and whispering in her ear. He woke up drenched in sweat. "This is no ordinary seduction. This is bondage," he muttered. He began fasting and praying, determined to confront the spirit. The next Sunday, he called a special deliverance service. "If anyone is under strange manipulation, come forward," he declared. Edward's mother dragged her son forward. Emmanuel's mother also pushed him reluctantly. Even Mr. Chris's wife came to stand for her husband. The atmosphere grew tense. It was as if an unseen force was resisting. While the church prayed, Beauty was at home laughing, counting bundles of money. She didn't feel threatened. Let them pray. I am untouchable, she boasted. She looked in the mirror, adjusting her waist bead. But for the first time, she noticed it glowed darker, almost like fire. She frowned but shook it off. Later that evening, Emmanuel came with gifts. She smiled and danced around, showing off her new jewelry. But deep inside, a strange fear was creeping in. That night, she dreamed of Mama Rose crying, warning her. Child, the bead would demand your soul. Beauty woke up trembling but quickly shook her head. No. I am in control. Nothing can happen to me. Pastor Michael decided enough was enough. He went to Beauty's house with 2 church elders. When she opened the door, she smirked. Oh, Pastor, welcome. Have you come to preach to me? The pastor looked her straight in the eyes. Beauty, the waist bead you wear is not fashion. It is bondage. Release yourself before it consumes you. Beauty laughed loudly. Pastor, I beg leave me. Men are fools, I just know how to handle them. Nothing is wrong with me. But as the pastor prayed quietly under his breath, the bead grew hot around her waist. Beauty winced but hid it. She waved them off, but fear began to grow in her heart. Mama Rose fell sick. She called Beauty to her bedside. With trembling hands, she begged, my child, stop before it's too late. The bead gave me wealth in my youth, but it also took my husband. That is the price. Beauty froze. Mama, you used it too. The old woman nodded weakly. Yes. That is why I warned you. I survived only by God's mercy. Please, remove it before it kills you. Tears welled up in Beauty's eyes, but pride made her stand tall. Mama, you suffered. I will not. I will use it better. Mama Rose wept bitterly. You are walking into fire. 2 days later, she passed away, leaving Beauty shaken but still stubborn. At the next deliverance service, Edward cried out loudly as prayers were made. He screamed Beauty's name and rolled on the floor. Suddenly, he vomited strange objects. The congregation gasped. When he finally calmed down, he looked free, his eyes clear for the first time in months. He hugged his mother, weeping. Mama, I'm sorry. I'm free now. The church rejoiced, but Pastor Michael warned, the source is still active. Until it is destroyed, more will fall. Beauty heard about Edward's deliverance and grew angry. How dare he leave me, she hissed. The waist bead burned her waist that night, leaving a red mark. She covered it with powder, but fear now followed her. Mr. Chris's business collapsed completely. Investors pulled out, and banks chased him for debt. His wife left, taking the children. He was left in a nearly empty house. One night, drunk and frustrated, he stumbled to Beauty's apartment. You ruined me, he shouted, tears streaming. Beauty shrugged. I didn't force you. You gave me everything willingly. She closed the door in his face. That night, Mr. Chris attempted to take his life but was rescued by neighbors. He was admitted to the hospital, broken and hopeless. The waist bead paused greedily. Beauty was losing her men, but their destruction was feeding its dark hunger. Emmanuel's mother dragged him to Pastor Michael's church. During prayers, he resisted, screaming Beauty's name, but eventually collapsed. When he stood up, he felt light, as though a heavy chain had been removed. For the first time in months, he picked up his guitar and sang from his heart. His voice carried freedom. The congregation wept. Emmanuel looked at his mother and cried. Mama, forgive me. I was blind. She hugged him tightly, thanking God for her son's deliverance. News spread that both Edward and Emmanuel had been set free. The community buzzed with hope. But Beauty grew restless. If I lose all my men, what do I have left? The waist bead began to torment Beauty. It tightened around her waist at night, leaving bruises. She woke up screaming in pain. She ran to the mirror, but the bead seemed alive, slithering like a serpent. No. You belong to me, she cried, trying to remove it, but her hands froze. Everywhere she went, she felt people's eyes on her. Whispers followed her in the market, at the salon, even on the street. Her once proud steps became shaky. That night, she dreamed of all the men she had destroyed. They stood around her, accusing her, pointing fingers. When she woke, her room was filled with a foul smell. The bead glowed blood red. Desperate, Beauty finally went to Pastor Michael. She fell at his feet, crying. Help me, Pastor. I can't take it anymore. The pastor looked at her, pity in his eyes. Beauty, are you ready to let go? The bead will not release you unless you renounce it completely. She nodded, trembling. Yes, I am ready. The church gathered for a powerful deliverance. As prayers began, Beauty screamed, the bead burning her skin. She rolled on the floor, begging for mercy. After hours of prayer, the bead snapped and fell off, turning into ash before everyone's eyes. Beauty woke up weak but free. For the first time, she felt peace in her spirit. She cried, holding Pastor Michael's hands. Thank you. I was blind. Edward, Emmanuel, and even Mr. Chris, though still broken, forgave her. The community watched in awe. Beauty moved away from her old apartment and started attending church faithfully. She joined a women's fellowship, learning humility and discipline. Though she had lost her wealth, she gained something greater, peace of mind. Slowly, she began working in a small shop, selling fabrics. Her journey was just beginning, but it was one built on truth, not deception. Years later, Beauty shared her story with young women in the church. She warned them, charms and seduction may bring fast money, but they will destroy you. Only hard work and faith can last. The women listened with wide eyes, learning from her scars. Edward rebuilt his life, married, and moved on. Emmanuel rose again in his music career, this time stronger and wiser. Mr. Chris never fully recovered his wealth, but he regained respect by living humbly. Beauty, now a changed woman, walked with quiet dignity. No more beads, no more lies, just truth. Her life became a testimony, proving that no matter how far someone falls, redemption is always possible.